チャタムハウスの議論の中でもありましたけれども、ファイナンスを使っていかにリスキービジネスを促進させるかということは大変重要な一つの論点になっております。その中でも私の方からは銀行という側面に焦点を絞ってご説明をさせていただきたいと思います。特にこのようなベンチャー企業と申しますのは、不動産担保のような有形資産を持たない例が多いため、このような企業に対して銀行側が融資をすることを躊躇するというのが実際に多いケースとなっております。そのような中でもいかにして銀行側がそのようなベンチャー企業に対して融資を行うかということが大変重要なことになってきております。実際に政府の取り組みとしましては、金融庁でおいて不動産担保などに過度に依存しない融資ということを奨励しておりまして、地方銀行や信用金庫などの成功事例を公開しています。
日本の現状ですけれども、まずリスキービジネスを活性化させるためにはどうすればいいかというふうに考えたときに、まずそのリスキービジネス、成功するビジネスにつながる斬新なアイデアを思いついて実行できる人材というのがたくさん必要になってくると思うんですけれども、その最初の時点で日本は今ちょっとつまずいているんじゃないかという問題意識があります。その民間企業とのコラボレーションでのリサーチ研究の経験がない企業、経験がない研究室っていうのが日本の大学では5割以上ということで、徐々にその産学連携を進んできてはいるんですけれども、まだまだそれが足りないという現状があるかと思います。
はい、それではここからはアントレプレナーシップというその議論の中でいかに才能のある個人、企業に値する個人をリスキーなビジネスの企業に向かわせるかということで少し発表させていただきます。まず日本でどうしてうまくいってないという議論がされているかといいますと、主に2つの現状があるからだと思います。まずはリスキービジネスを起業家のマインドという意味で国際比較しますと、例えば日本だったら典型的な姿は大学、特に学部を卒業した時からできると言われている人ほど安定した大企業を目指す傾向が強いと思います。一方のアメリカもしくはもういくつか他の国では優秀な人ほどむしろ小さいところでもいいから自分で会社を作って社長になろうという人が多くて、それがかつ社会的にもあと転職市場でも重用されているという傾向があると言われています。でもう一方で日本では例えば才能のある人が大きい会社を辞めて、いわゆる脱サラをして起業するといったら周りの人友達も家族も親戚もショックを受けるという傾向が強いと思います。そういう意味でどうしてそうなるかというと正社員の解雇に対する規制が強いというのは一方で転職できる人が少ないということと表裏一体でして、実際確かに結果としてアメリカとか一部の国と比べて日本は転職脱サラがより困難な環境になると思われます。実際脱サラという言葉もそんな難しさをニュアンスになってるんじゃないかと思います。
Thinking how can we direct the money, this high quality money, towards risky business, and we propose 3 pillars. The first being building a platform to link investors and entrepreneurs, and this initiative is in place. I'll explain later. Second, expanding the market itself for risky business, and third, enhancing the financial system which is already in place. So the next slide is current initiatives. I'll quickly like to explain what's in place now in Japan. There's a Jumpstart Nippon project which is endorsed by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and it's actually a really good project because the features are it's obviously created and led by the government, but the main features are it builds a network for top-level sponsors, and also it shows model projects which did or are going to go well, and then it shares experience and knowledge obviously. And the point is that the government funds the initial costing, which is 20 million yen. Whether we think that's enough or less is up to the person. And the projects are publicly advertised and people apply to it. And the government doesn't select it. The people who sponsor it actually select the projects. So it's actually building a platform for the projects and the sponsors. So we think this is actually a good project and it's building and it's promising, but what can we add to it? So there's 2. The first one is expanding the market. This is directly, there's two, but one is directing money towards venture capital, because the problem is that the current project doesn't directly address the need to finance the venture capital itself. It kind of links towards the project, but not towards where the money is. So what needs is we need more lending towards these venture funds. And the strategies we think is maybe a creation of a hub bank, which can be led by the government, or this can be kind of flexible, but we need money flowing towards the funds. And I was looking, there's one example which can't be directly adapted to Japan, but in Europe, the European Investment Bank holds a lot of funds, and they lend it towards like Deutsche Bank, Bank of Ireland, and for them to actually fund risky business. That means the people who have money actually get the money, and they can lend it efficiently as well, because that's the economy of scales working there. And that's like kind of a model to have a hub bank looking at everything and then creating the money. The second strategy is matching the needs in a larger market, because if the people have money, don't find anything, obviously the money doesn't flow. So that's also what the EIB is actually good at, because there's one bank looking at all the needs.
New talents with brilliant ideas and expertise from big businesses, because they stuck in the big businesses, to smaller firms. Entrepreneurship education from early stages, such as in middle schools, might be very useful for students to think about and touch and feel about how entrepreneurship goes. And also, the government might be able to promote entrepreneurship, which is about growing businesses within larger businesses and start their initiatives inside the larger firms, because people tend to stay in larger firms. And if they find successful, they might be get out of their companies. And then also human resources management reforms. If let's say an employee working for a large company come up with a really nice idea, very profitable one, he should be rewarded for the great ideas. For example, do you guys remember what happened to Professor Nakamura? Invented LEDs. He was working for Nietzsche, kind of manufacturing company, and he came up with how to utilize LEDs. However, since he was an employee within the company, he didn't get enough compensation, and then he went to the court, and after that he went to the US teaching at University in California. So we might be able to reform human resource management system. Next please. And then here are some other things that might grow large business as well. METI has been doing promoting investments by subsidizing or giving tax breaks to our new high-tech investment. Also, the government initiated easy leasing system to spur more spending.
People, the second focused on about the business. And now I'm going to talk about the money, because obviously we need money to actually capitalize the funds. There was like an interesting story. I think it was a labo in Tokyo University. They invented a robot, and it was like a shaft group, but it was actually bought by Google by the time they won a really famous contest. That typically shows the Japanese situation, because it was Japanese technology, but the money was coming from another country. And I was reading the interviews of the people who funded this project, and they were saying, like, in Japan there's no venture capital, there's no money flowing, mainly because the companies need to get returned by 3 to 5 years, and that's why the money doesn't flow. So my focus is on how to get money into the actual projects. So my outline today is our idea. I'm going to describe the idea, then current initiatives in Japan, because there's obviously things going on in Japan, and then expanding the market, enhancing the system. These two are going to be our two key strategies, and then I'm going to conclude. So let's move on to the current idea. idea of getting money is to focus on money because there's so many patient and intelligent investors in Japan, especially under this economic situation where it's getting better. We do have money and actually people who have capacity to invest in risky projects. And so we're thinking, how can we direct the money, this high quality money, towards risky business? And we propose 3 pillars. The first being building a platform to link investors and entrepreneurs, and this is initiative in place. I'll explain later. Second, expanding the market itself for risky business, and third, enhancing the financial system which is already in place. So the next slide is current initiatives. I'll quickly like to explain what's in place now in Japan. There's a Jumpstart Nippon project which is endorsed by the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, and it's actually a really good project because the features are, it's obviously created and led by the government, but the main features are it builds a network for top level sponsors, and also it shows model projects which did or are going to go well. And then it shares experience and knowledge, obviously, and then to actually fund risky business. That means the people who have money actually get the money and they can lend it efficiently as well, because that's the economy of scales working there. And that's like kind of a model to have a hub bank looking at everything and then creating the money. The second strategy is matching the needs in a larger market, because if the people have money, go find anything, obviously the money doesn't flow. So that's also what the EIB is actually good at, because there's one bank looking at all the needs across the borders of the country. Obviously, if the sponsor doesn't have anything that they want to sponsor inside the country, we want something outside the country as well. So if at least in the Asian market, I'm not talking about creating a pan-Asian bank, but if we can have at least matching needs between the countries, that's at least a more broader perspective for the money to flow. The last system, we're enhancing the system. This is more technical, but we're thinking of 2 points: encouraging loans using intangible assets, because the bank, even if they want to lend it, they can't lend it because the SMEs or the risky projects don't have any tangible assets to work as collateral. So if the government at least can support the system and deregulate, or even enhance ways that the bank can lend without having tangible assets, that would at least push the money towards the risky business, or at least make it easier. And the second one is incentivize banks to act as consultants towards SMEs, because obviously in Japan the bank is a really big I don't know how to say it, but compared to other countries, it is a huge thing in Japan that banks have the money, they flow the money, they create the money. So if they can act as consultants, then at least it would be matching the consultancy and the place where it has funds. So it allows to lend to the SMEs. So that was the main 2 points. I'll quickly conclude. How do we lead the high quality investors in Tokyo towards risky business? There's 3 pillars. The first, promotion of the newly established project, Jumpstart Nippon, because it's building a platform to link sponsors and projects. Second, creation of a hub institution by the government, or this can maybe be even private, which can efficiently
with taking risks, both with their money and with their careers. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that.
Yeah, especially so the venture capitals, we need to, there's much more less venture capitals in Japan too. That means, partly as I was saying, there's only large banks or I don't know, safe banks in Japan. So money should be flowing first to the venture capitals, and then to because they're the only people who can effectively support the business. The project itself. So the first link maybe can be enhanced by, by some system change or government change, because that's mainly making the money towards the venture capital. But then the next link is a bit, as you say, difficult, because it involves the risk-averse culture.
Yeah, I think that, after hearing Yumeko's presentation, I thought that in Japan we need some diversification in terms of a function of finance. In Japan, most of the finance sectors are occupied.
In your lifetime. and over 50% of the Japanese said they tend to stay in the same company.
Yeah.
20% change one time, while the Americans probably stick to 20% of the whole Americans stick to one company in the whole time. So that's a huge difference. And because of the lifetime employment, I don't know, they don't come out to the market. That's a huge issue. So how do we extract those talent into the new market, into the entrepreneurial market? Be very, very.
The group company, but it's less risky. But because of course Recruit is kind of an education company, they do it, but finally they give them like startup money and they give them the know-how. And if it turns well, this business goes out but still works with Recruit, so it's kind of still good for Recruit too. So for Recruit it's like investing, but investing in people. And I thought that was like a really clever scheme because it's easier to go over the hurdle for the people starting business because they're still working within the group, but still they get to do their own business. And yeah, I thought that might be kind of a middle point, not just like going out of the company but staying in but working inside. That kind of thing might be a clue, but I don't know.
It's true, isn't it, that the lifetime employment system is in any case sort of shrinking in Japan. I think less than 50%.
Yeah, it should be. From my
People,
notes.
yeah. So, but do you think that Abenomics needs to accelerate that process by deregulating the labour market more, making it easier for companies to get rid of employees they don't need? Do you think that would be helpful?
Personally, I do. And personal, this is my personal opinion. It doesn't reflect any organizational standpoint of view or the government, but I should, because lifetime employment system worked probably after World War II, when most of the Japanese were really hardworking.
And the economy was growing.
But now this system disincentivizes talents within the organization.
Necessary to have some government institution to start off the funding, and then once you develop a culture of entrepreneurship and venture capital, eventually that becomes unnecessary to have government involvement. So it might be worth